Okay, Tom.
All right. We're going to call this meeting to order. Smithville Village Council. Roll call.
Allen,
Here.
Haas. I know it's there. There he is. Okay. Heitzer,
Here.
Mullins,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Thorne.
Here.
All right. You should have received a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. If you have the opportunity to review those minutes, I would entertain a motion in a second to approve those.
Motion to approve the last week's minutes.
Second, Thorne.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve May 4th, 2021's minutes as presented. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Allen,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Heitzer,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne.
Yes.
All right. Obviously the first items of business that we have is the police report, and Chief Barnett has joined us this evening. So I'll turn that meeting over to her so she can touch base on the items that she had.
Okay. I have the police report here for April. Calls for service 49, as you can see, the various different calls that we had. 5 case reports, 5 crash reports. We had some citations, business checks, vacation checks. Things are starting to pick up. The next thing we have, I can move into, do you want to move into Officer Onaveros?
Yes, please.
Okay, Officer Onaveros, as of May 4th, 2021, he has decided to resign his position as patrol officer with us. However, I have extended an offer to hold a commission to give him adequate time to find a different police department if he so decides, until November 1st of 2021. So I'm looking for that for the approval of his resignation and with an extension on us holding a commission for him until November 1st of 2021.
Chief, does us holding that commission, does that just mean that if Officer Ontiveros decides to return to Smithville, that would just be a matter of him returning to work? There'd be no more administrative duties or anything. Is that how I understand it correctly?
He would, if there was a decision for him to have come back to the department, he would have to be rehired because he's tendered his resignation. All this allows him to do is keep his police officer commission open so that, if he is employed somewhere, it's already in place. Obviously, the point that he would take a position somewhere else, they then would take his commission. So then, but it's just something as a courtesy to allow him to continue to hold that certification. So
if that's the case, I don't disagree with doing that. Does it need to be stated in his?
It will be stated, yes, it will be stated in the motion that obviously that Beverly will record for it, that it's been passed.
That it'll be retained unless he finds employment with another department.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I have a quick question too. So how long has he been with us?
He has been with us since it would have been August of 2020. So he's coming up on year in probation in August.
Okay, so that's what I was kind of asking. So like if he were to leave and then come back, is him going back on probation just something that we would determine at that time, or do we have a set? Isn't that something we would just determine whether based on the chief's?
Correct. I think what we would do is obviously if that were the case, we would obviously discuss those things, and that would be part of the rehire if that were to happen.
Okay, I wasn't sure how close he was to the 6 months. I just wanted to check on that. So I guess I would, if there's nobody else saying anything, I'll make the motion then to accept Officer Ontiveros' resignation as of, is it 5/4? Is that what we're going with?
Yes.
And of 2021, and holding his commission for a 6-month period ending on November 1st of 2021.
A second?
I'll second that, Larry.
Okay, we have motion and second, accepting Officer Ontiveros' resignation, specific to the details in the resignation itself. Any questions?
I do have one question.
Sure.
Retaining his commission for that period, does that open the village up to any sort of liability for having maintained that?
Is that something you want me to answer, Mayor, or?
Yeah, or obviously Jason. I'm assuming he would not be doing any law enforcement activities unless he's with a department. So my understanding would be obviously at any point that he began, obviously any kind of official police activities with another department, they would take that commission at that point. But again, I'm not the attorney, so.
I'll just say I don't know the answer to that question. Is a police commit, is that just like your ability to be a licensed police officer? Is that essentially what a commission is?
That's basically what it is, yeah.
Okay, so then I would assume, Joe, it would be like our licenses. It doesn't really mean anything.
Okay.
Any other questions? If there aren't any, then roll call.
Haas,
Yes.
Heicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I think those are the items that right now for the
Well,
police report. We do
I
have a
have-
couple other items in new business that we'll cover.
Do you want me to
Um,
cover the SRO and K9?
But we do have those on the new business portion.
Okay,
Is that okay?
that's fine. That's
Those
fine.
are new items, but yes, we will,
Okay.
at that point, we'll ask for action on the new contract. The other, I'm not going to ask for action yet per our conversation, okay? Then moving on, the correspondence that we have already, obviously, it's only been 7 days since we had online payment services available. And actually, as of tonight, I do have new numbers because we can run those basically up through, from the whole month up through today's date. We've had a total of 39 individuals make payments relative to the new system. 26 were credit or debit cards, 13 were EFT checks. Again, too, on that, as far as there were 18 that signed up for paperless, which is good. I mean, less bills being sent. And again, there were 10 individuals signed up for auto pay as well. And I know that also there are a number of people, it does show how many signed up for text registration, which means they'll be paying their bill from text. And then also too, we did have one individual use the system already to make income tax payment as well. So I think for the first 7 days, and obviously the limited time that we've had to push it, I think we're doing well, but we'll continue to look for ways in which to promote it and encourage particularly people to do auto pay and also paperless from the standpoint of savings to the village. Are there any questions on that report or correspondence? Yeah. If there aren't, the next item is something that really administratively, we've made the decision that I will talk with John Parker on it, and we'll decide from there, how we would handle the request that was given to us. Moving on into old business, there's nothing on the agenda. Is there anything that council has that they would like to bring up tonight?
Mayor, I was just curious. I know that I had started a process to work with Centerra Co-op regarding the potential village purchase of that ground where the current recycling center sits. And I know we're up on a timeline.
Sure.
Just wanted to know, has there been any progress? I know maybe
Sure.
last we spoke, we were waiting on some guidance from Mr. Parker.
Well, no, actually, since then, obviously what we found out was that Mr. Parker felt as though if there was a right-of-way established for the use of Centura for Gilbert Drive, then that would obviously take care of the issue that we had. Since then, I did speak with the owners of, obviously, the Riverview, but that's not the legal name of that entity. They indicated that right-of-way has already been established. It would have been established just because of some other things that were business issues that they dealt with Centura. So that exists basically at this point in time. We're trying to verify that that is recorded at the county auditor's office or county recorder's office, that is recorded. If that's the case, then we should be in a good position in which to send a letter out that you proposed and for us to set up a time to sit down and have a conversation and see whether or not there'd be interest on their part.
So
Okay.
I'll just comment on that quickly, Tom. I did the preliminary search based on the computer records that they keep back through the late 80s, and I did not find an easement recorded. So my next step is to actually go into the office and look through the books and see if I can find it. So that's still on my to-do list.
Okay, I appreciate that, Jason. Any other questions about old business items? If there are not, then we're going to move on into the first item on our new business. You did approve the 2021 fee schedule, obviously, at our last meeting. But since then, obviously at BPA level meeting, the one thing that came to obviously a discussion was the fact that the obviously the return item fee for obviously ACH check payments was 15, that obviously we were charging the consumer or the resident. Well, the actual physical check charge for return check was only 10. BPA felt it made sense to make those line up with one another. So they obviously recommended to council by action that they took that we obviously increase the actual physical check return fee to 15 as well. So they'll be matching in regards to the cost that we would charge. So that's the only change that's on the fee schedule. Again, that was been presented to you. And again, what we're looking for is just, obviously a motion and a second so we can act upon this to actually increase that to $15 as well. So.
Motion to accept. So, motion to accept the revised fee schedule 2021.
Second.
Okay,
John
we have
can have
motion
it.
and a second to pay the or to approve the 2021 fee schedule. And are any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Eicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
yes,
Haas,
Yes.
All right, moving on and to the agenda, we have the April 2021 financial report. You'll see the monthly report for the month of April ending April 30th. Again, it shows each of our funds and it shows the estimated revenue, actual revenue, through the April 30th date, shows appropriated amounts and actual expenses, again, showing where we are relative to our budget. Again, this is the one piece that we do need approval for. Are there any questions concerning the April financial report? If there aren't any, I would entertain a motion and second to approve the monthly financial report.
So moved.
Second, Thorne.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the monthly financial report for the month of April of 2021. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
yes,
Haas,
Yes.
Eicher,
Yes.
The other items that you should have received on a financial standpoint is you should have received the statement of cash position also through, it should be through April 31. That report shows specifically each of our funds. Again, it shows beginning balances, month-to-date receipts, year-to-date receipts, month-to-date disbursements, and year-to-date disbursements. Also shows any outstanding encumbrance and an ending balance for each of those funds through the end of April. Again, that's something for your information. The other items you would have received was a revenue report showing detailed line items relative to the revenues. Again, month-to-date, year-to-date report. And then the last thing that you would have received was also the expense account through obviously April of 30th of 2021. Again, that shows month-to-date and year-to-date expenses. And it shows the budget amount, and it shows obviously where we are currently relative to budget on the expense side. Are there any questions on those reports? And again, Pam was unable to join us this evening. But again, too, if there's any questions on those. If not, then we're going to move on to the next item that obviously the police department has put before us. And that would be obviously a contract with Green Local Schools for the school resource officer position. Again, it's something that we provide to them, but we have always had a contract in place. Obviously, Chief Barnett had conversations with Superintendent Frank, and they came to obviously this agreement that will cover the next 3 years in relationship to the specifics amounts. And again, I'll let obviously Chief Barnett share anything that she would like to relative to that proposal.
So their amount has increased for the school resource officer. In the amount desired would be in 2023, 2024, they'll be covering 28,400 of that. Liberty Prep, as of right now, I'm not for certain on if they're going to continue SRO services with us or not. I should know within the next couple weeks in regard to that. But as far as I have right now, it's just local.
Yeah. Are there any questions relative to the proposed contract amounts or the contract itself? If not, it is something that council would need to approve, and I would obviously entertain a motion in a second.
Motion to approve entering into the contract as written with the Green Local Schools for the student resource officer, for the school resource officer for school year 2021-22.
Second.
Okay, Joe. All right, we have motion and second approving the contract with Green Local Schools relative to the school resource officer program. Are there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Heicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is also an item from the Police Department, Chief Barnett. It's in regards to, she's been exploring, obviously adding a K-9 unit to the Smithville Police Department. And again, too, I will share that, I did have a conversation with Pam. She was unable to be here this evening, but after discussing with her, we do have some questions for Chief Barnett that I'm going to forward to her in an email. So I won't be asking for any action relative to this proposal, but I'm going to let her go ahead and share and answer any questions that you may have at this point in time. So I'll turn it over to Chief Barnett.
One thing that I've mentioned before is I see a huge benefit for the department and the community, especially most of all, adding a K-9 unit and handler to our department. The handler will be one of our officers, and that officer's been chosen as Sergeant Wirtz, as I had seen fit. The company that we decided to go with is the Excel K-9 Services, which is located in Hiram. I went there with Sergeant Wirtz and we met a few dogs. And I don't know if the mayor decided to forward the picture of our desired Nez, but she is a Belgian Mountain. They're stating that she's possibly a year old. She's been imported from another country, as they do with most of these canines before they train them. No, she's a complete sweetheart. Anyhow, I would say she's probably on the distance, which is actually a benefit for us as well because time out of her for our use. So, but she's right now being implemented with the idea of if we move forward with her, that she'd be trained in narcotics detection as well as tracking. Tracking we can use for a number of things, and I wasn't going to do that from the jump. However, talking to various canine handlers, I decided it was a good idea, not only for criminal reasons, but, we have a lot of, you have kids that become missing, runaways. So it's something that actually on that side of it as well is a huge benefit to have her trained in that as also. But that is where we are currently with her. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, Chief, this is Matt Hawes. A few questions are, when's the planned receipt date of the canine, and how old is it when we receive them?
So typically her training, it depends on how fast she moves. They're starting that process now. So it maybe within June she'd be ready. And then Sergeant Wirtz would begin his training. So she could, if all went well on our end, she could be on the road and utilized by July, August, I would say best.
So the contract, as it was written, Chief, was for the purchase and the training and the training of the handler. Are there expenses also perhaps with one of the police vehicles that would need to be retrofitted, or would the canine unit be able to be used as is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So currently Sergeant Wirtz is working on a proposal for a grant. It's the Criminal Justice Services Grant. And they call it the JAG grant. And now basically they will fund a cruiser, the equipment, as well as the equipment for the canine. So all those expenses will be covered, as well as the canine. It would be a reimbursement. And then also in this contract, I forgot to mention, when I talked to the owner, he said that it does state that we would need the 50% down and then final payment when training was complete. He said he would revise that part. However, he understands fiscal years, and he said it was completely fine if we paid, next January if need be. He wasn't concerned about that. But, yes, so we're looking at grant services to actually fund this entire program. And speaking to the director, it seems like we can actually fund the entire program.
Okay. And then if is this would we have to change any of our insurance or our liability insurance for having the canine? I like the idea. I don't want to sound like I don't, but I just want to make sure we're fully aware of if this changes anything that we need to do procedurally as a department or as a village with the addition of this, if this would be happening.
Yes, absolutely. That's another thing. I just contacted and spoke with today, and he's sending me a quote, I believe, tomorrow. But it was liability, insurance. He is not going to be trained in bite work. However, that does not mean, dog. I want that. A lot of departments, cities don't have that. But I think that's absolutely silly to take on that liability myself. I don't think we should create the program without some sort of liability coverage. So that would be something that we would ask to have in our budget as well at some point. I'll have those numbers for you. Now, policy-wise, I do have a rough draft of a policy that we would absolutely need to have.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions at this point? Like I said, obviously there's a number of things. Pam obviously is familiar with the program from having been at Rittman. And she did have some very specific questions along some of the same things, but even further. And I'm assuming that obviously Chief Barnett and myself can sit down tomorrow. And also I was going to put it in email form so that way then she has the opportunity to be able to answer some of the specific questions that Pam has raised as well. So we will do that as we continue on in the process. Are there any other questions?
I have a question, please. What's the annual cost for this canine?
Well, it depends. I mean, some females are pretty demanding. No, she you know, it's just like a regular dog. So we would ask for, in our budget, we would need to fund like yearly her, you know, food amount, expense, and, you know, medical, maybe an amount like get her nails trimmed, whatnot. I am looking to get her spayed as well. That would be another thing that we would need to do eventually as she got a little older. But yearly, after all said and done, maybe I spoke with Doylestown Police Department and they ran some numbers and it was about $500 a year. You would need allotted extra for her.
I'm kind of off topic because my ADD is kicking in, but is there any way to like have everybody mute their microphones unless you're talking? Because I heard half of what Jen said from some feedback, and I think some other people are getting that as well. Can we see if that helps? Because I couldn't hear hardly anything. Maybe that was just me. I don't know.
Do you want me to repeat?
No, I can talk to you about it or read it in the minutes, but it was just in and out.
Okay.
I was having a lot of trouble hearing, so. Thanks.
All right. And again, obviously, if you think of any questions in the meantime, you'd be welcome to obviously forward them to Chief Barnett. And if you just copy myself, that would be great. And we will follow up on a number of the things that were raised as well as the other questions that Pam has as well. So is there anything else specific to that topic? If not, then we're going to move on in the agenda. The next thing that we have on the agenda is in-person meetings. And again, what we have raised is the question of June 15th is whether or not we can return to having in-person meetings with the changes relative to the state requirements as it concerns COVID. So again, we put that on the agenda so we can have discussion. I think that there's a lot of value, obviously, as we are encountering, again, issues. We still here have issues with connectivity and the strength of the wireless. So you folks freeze up on occasion. But again, what we want to do is have a discussion, and as long as we can legally do it relative to the state's mandates. And again, obviously what's key is that we're able to obviously allow visitors to come to the meetings once we start meeting in person. So.
Tom, my first question is going to be for you on that. Is Village Hall reopening?
We will, as of the date that we're allowed to, with June 2nd, if the mask mandate is removed. Yes, our intent is to open.
Okay.
And obviously Becky and the office staff knows that.
Okay.
And along that same line, one of the things we also are looking at is obviously reinstituting a magistrate's court as well.
Okay.
So we're kind of our intent is sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Our intent is to obviously remove, a lot of the limitations we've had here at Village Hall and return to as much as normal. So.
Okay. I was just going to say my concern was I didn't think it was kosher for us to have Village Hall closed and then say council can come in and meet though.
Sure.
So
our intent, and obviously I've already spoken here, obviously to the staff, our intent would be as of the 3rd, because I understand it ends on the 2nd.
I'm not sure if it ends the 1st or the 2nd, to be honest.
Okay.
The
I know,
June
none of
2
us
date
do.
is popping out in my mind, but I wouldn't bet my paycheck on it.
So
Right,
that's why we were tentatively figuring the 3rd so that we were covered. regardless if it's the first, second, or if it's second at midnight, which would mean it's the third. So, but that is our intent, obviously, to reopen Village Hall at that point.
If I recall, isn't there another order that hasn't been mentioned that's in place until the end of the month of June? Is that a thing?
Are you asking me, Joe?
Yeah,
What order are you asking about?
I thought there was another state health department order that was it the actual declaration of emergency because of the pandemic?
I think the state of emergency may last until the end of June. I'm not 100% on that.
Does that hold any sway over whether or not we're allowed to reopen?
I don't think so.
So again, I guess we do have the first meeting in June. I guess from between now and then, I think what we'll do is continue to explore. But as long as we're able to legally relative to obviously any kind of state health mandates and obviously sunshine laws relative to open meetings, as long as we meet those requirements, I guess my intention would be that we, should return to in-person meetings. I think it's obviously would be much more conducive to oftentimes the business that we're trying to conduct without kind of some of the issues that we've encountered doing online. So, if there's any other thoughts, you're welcome to express those. But that would be my recommendation, as long as we can meet the state health mandates and obviously allow public to access and be part of the meetings. Then I think it would be a benefit to continue or to open up the meetings to a in-person.
So
session.
is it possible to maybe just have Jason send an all clear exactly what's happening when the hall opening? Make sure you double check on that. The other thing Joe was talking about, just maybe send something out. Because I'm not even sure which one he was talking about, and we want to make sure we're doing it legally, I guess. I can't wait to get back in person, but if you could send something out to us after you maybe check into it a little bit.
Yeah, I can do that. And I'll tell you, we're not the only people having this discussion. I've seen lots of emails on the Municipal League listserv over this week, especially about, what does this mean? Who does what when?
Right.
So there's a lot of questions going around.
Yeah, I figured maybe closer to meeting time would be better to check.
Sure.
Before we get too excited.
Well, and
I'm bringing party food or something.
I can't wait to get back in person though. Is this something we even have to vote on, or once it's to the point where it's not disallowed, we can just begin doing it again, right? Unless anybody's got a strong objection. That would be my feeling. We didn't vote to not meet in person. So I think that, again, the real question comes down to just as long as we meet the requirements we have to live under. But if we can, I think that it's time that we would come back to meeting in person. After all, some folks maybe haven't even met other individuals in person since this began and they've joined us. So I think there's value in that, being able to obviously be together. So
is my recollection correct? We didn't even miss any meetings when this all started. We just switched directly to Zoom.
We didn't miss any meetings, correct? We went right to Zoom. So, and again, obviously part of the frustration is obviously when they make announcements and yet some of the specific details of the announcement aren't even available at the point that they make the announcement. And so, it'd be nice if there was more direction and more specifics relative to the types of announcements they make. But we'll allow Jason to wade through that and make certain that what we're doing is appropriate. But if at all possible, I think it would be our intent to shoot for the 15th after the state's requirements have been obviously rescinded. So with that, then we're going to move on. There is one other item on the agenda, or not on the agenda, that I should bring before you. And it was something that, actually occurred recently. And that's in regards to the cleaning position here at the Village Hall. Most of you may have never met her because she comes in the evenings, works very limited hours, but that would be Lori Evans. And again, too, she has tendered a resignation as of Saturday, May 22nd of 2021. Her husband is retiring, and she is wanting to retire this part-time position so she can have time to spend with her grandchildren, family, camping at Odell Lake, and traveling. So obviously at this point in time, she is retiring. So I would ask for a motion. And again, it will be effective Saturday, May 22nd of 2021. Again, she's been here 15 years. And she said everybody's been so kind and friendly. And I think she was very appreciative of the opportunity. But at this point in time, I would ask for a motion and a second to accept the resignation.
Mayor, before we do that, is it worth discussing, since this was a longtime employee, although I'd have to admit this is the first I've met her in Word. Is it worth drafting a thank you letter on behalf of the village for her years of service? I mean, 15 years is a good long time.
Yeah, that's a very, very appropriate. So we'd be glad to do that.
Maybe we can all even sign it the first time we get together. It'd be a little bit late, but it'd be signed by real folks. So other than that, no, I motion to accept the resignation as written and with a note of gratitude for years served. Thank you.
Thank you. And a second?
Second. And with me being personnel liaison, I'll take care of getting that, and then we'll make sure we'll get you to everybody to have it signed.
Appreciate that, Tricia. So we have a motion and a second to accept the resignation of Lori Evans, effective May 22nd. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Thorne,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Heicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
All right. And just to give you a little bit of information relative to what our plans are, obviously with her resignation, we decided that we would like to consider going a little different direction with the cleaning services. And what we've done is, and obviously in talking with Pam, we are looking at basically some proposals or quotes from obviously companies that would just come in and do the cleaning services. Most of those individuals obviously we would come in and do the cleaning. They provide all the supplies, basically be on a contract basis. We do have one proposal thus far, but we're looking for at least one more for consideration. But at the point in time that we obviously put something in place, we will be asking council for approval of a contract to provide those services to the village. So that I just wanted to share what our direction was in relationship to how we're going to provide the services that are necessary for the village. So is there anything else that council has in new business area that they would like to bring up this evening? If there isn't any, we'll move on to liaison reports. We'll go to Scott with equipment.
Good evening. All quiet on the equipment front.
Okay. Then moving on, Larry with fire.
Nothing unusual other than they, again, had a very busy month, almost same as a record, but nothing unusual. That's about it.
Okay. There's nothing else for police. Going on to Veterans Memorial, Joe.
Just minor update, parade planning's going ahead as hoped. Confirmed that it's 8:15 Monday morning. That it'll be kicking off and heading up to the memorial there for a small ceremony.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then to Matt for Park and Trees.
As informed council a couple weeks ago, the park survey was posted on the village website. And thank you, Bev, for checking today. We have about 80 surveys filled out on the website thus far, with a couple weeks to go. Hoping to get a couple hundred total, and then we'll crunch the numbers in June. And the park is hopping.
I guess I would encourage all of council to go online and to fill out that, as well as anyone that you know that, and again, it is not inclusive to just village residents. There is obviously some of the questions relating to, people that may not live within the village that have interest in the park as well. And they can indicate, obviously what their resident status is as part of that. But we would encourage as many people as possible to obviously become part of that. So,
Yes, please. Thanks.
anything else, Matt?
Yes, sir. That's it.
Okay. All right, moving on then to streets and sidewalks, and that'd be for John.
Hello. Adam and Mike had the Durapatcher out on Dan, David, and High Streets with more to come. Flags are up downtown. The whiskey barrels should be back full of flowers in the next week or so, and that's downtown as well. GDP has started the engineering for the sidewalk project on Fairlawn. And with that, we've already had our first complaint about sidewalks on Fairlawn. And it's typical, I guess, of sidewalk projects experience through the years, I guess. So it's going to happen. So we'll just deal with it and move on.
And John, did you want to dispel the one rumor that was out there? So council's aware if they hear that.
I did dispel the rumor. This gentleman who wrote to me and asked, he wanted to know if the sidewalk project was a reality, and he also heard a rumor that we were going to build a alley between David and Fairlawn, and I told him no, that wasn't going to happen. But I did tell him the sidewalk project was going forward. He did also reach back and with a few concerns, but nothing out of the ordinary.
All right, any questions for John? If not, then I think that takes care of that, and we'll move on to finance and personnel. And Tricia has anything for us?
No, I'll just, like I said, I'll take care of getting a card for the, what's her first name?
Lori
yeah.
Evans.
I'll make sure I get a card and maybe put it down at the hall for everybody to stop in and sign. And then I know somebody that owns a flower shop. We might be able to get her some flowers or something to give to her. I don't know, it's just a thought, but I'll take care of that.
Thank you, Tricia. Any other items as far as liaison? Any questions? If not, I'll move into my report. Obviously, again, what's on there is something that's Ryan Marthy is working on our behalf. There isn't a whole lot. Obviously, I told you about a lot of things the BPA is working on. Again, they continue to work on that. We did draft a response letter to the EPA in regards to the violations. We're just going to wait for Tom Abraham, the operator, to respond to one of the items that really falls into his area to be able to respond to. But we're moving forward with that. Obviously, the project, the sewer plant, the electrical panel is on the agenda for the contract that was selected. The water tower is making great progress. And again, with very, very few, obviously, change orders or any additional costs beyond the original contract. And again, too, they're working on, obviously, I&I, and particularly the issue of amnesty program as it relates to private sump pumps and connections that are illegal, and giving them obviously amnesty and the village to utility department picking up the cost. And it would be on a limited basis based upon what we feel with working with Pam that we could afford each year. But again, those are the things that they're working on. And again, too, if there's any questions regarding any of those items, feel free to contact myself or Kyle Crownapples, the BPA chair of that group. So those are the only things that I would have. I think that on the agenda, we have bills to be approved that you should have received a copy of. I would ask that we have a motion and a second to approve bills as presented.
Motion to approve the bills in the amount of $10,291.36.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to second to approve bills. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Allen,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Heicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
All right. If there's nothing else that needs to be brought before us this evening, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Thorne.
Okay,
Matt
we have
can have
motion. We have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. All right, well, I appreciate everybody's participation. As always, if there's anything you need or any questions, feel free to contact me.
Thank you, everybody.